And now, in studio, bringing his Midwest values from the Show Me State to the land of San Diego. He's a triple threat, licensed as an attorney, mortgage broker, and a top producing realtor who's crushing the competition. Here to deliver you what's happening in the trenches of the market. Your host, Michael Gaddis.
Welcome to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis, talking to you every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. about anything and everything related to real estate. I am, of course, a licensed California attorney, a real estate broker, and an NMLS licensed mortgage broker. I can be found at michaelgaddis.com or frontierloangroup.com. My special guests today in studio are Michelle Herrera of Michael Gaddis Realty Group. Thank you for taking time to join me today.
Thank you for having me, Michael. How's it going?
It's going really well. It's not raining quite as much right now. It's been, flooding everywhere for the past couple days.
There was a flash flood yesterday.
Yeah, there are like pools
something
everywhere.
to be concerned about.
It is something to be concerned about.
I was worried this morning.
I'm sure. Yeah. Is that why you brought the inflatable raft in your car?
That's necessary nowadays with El Nino around the corner. They're here.
My other guest is Will Afzali, the lending manager of Frontier Loan Group. Thank you, Will, for coming in today.
Pleasure to be here.
Are you staying dry as well?
I am staying very dry.
Yeah, well, this rain is very welcome because we've been in a drought so long. My only hope is that they're capturing this rain somehow. Hopefully someone somewhere is figuring out how to get all this rain that's all over the place into some place that we can utilize it so it's just not rolling off into the ocean. So I wanted to talk a little bit today in the initial segment here about 2016. First, Happy New Year to you guys and to everyone listening. We are now in 2016.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year, everybody.
It's been a long time since I spoke to you. It's been last year's the last time I talked to you guys, but it's good to have you guys
That's
here.
the greatest phase of the last days of December is I'll see you next year.
See you next year.
I'll see you next year. And then it catches you and you're like, oh yes. I will see you next year.
I will see you next year, actually. So I think that's great. So what everyone does when a new year comes is they have resolutions, they have goals, they have all these things that they set. Have you guys set any New Year's resolutions? Will, have you set any?
Well, what are your New Year's resolutions?
To eat as much food as possible.
Oh,
What?
to eat as much food as possible.
As much food as possible.
That's kind of the opposite of most people's New Year's resolution.
I can be a little different, yeah.
Yeah, I see. I could see that, literally. Michelle, what
Good
about
thing I'm
you?
on the radio.
Yeah. Camera might not fit you in the frame there. What you got, Michelle?
My goals are opposite of Will's. To eat as less food as possible.
Oh, wow. That's more of a typical type.
Camera has
Yeah,
about 10 or
that's your
15, 20
typical.
pounds.
The camera.
so you guys
It
know.
does.
Just so you guys
I'm
know.
looking at the camera right now. I'm like, this is not good.
So one of the things I want to talk about, I want to set, besides setting goals and things like that, people, there's a lot of advice that people give people at the beginning of every year. And so an article that I found said the top 10 tips for mortgage borrowers in 2016. So I thought we'd kind of talk a little bit about that because I thought it was interesting. The number one tip they give you is to improve your credit worthiness. So it says your credit profile is important to a lender. When you're prepared to buy a home, they look at your credit. So, you need to take a look and analyze your credit. So that's a really good tip. If you're thinking, or maybe you're renting right now, or maybe you own a house and you're thinking about buying another house, whatever it might be. I think what this is basically telling you is pull your credit report, get a copy of it, see what's going on. Most people don't do that.
Yeah, so you can start taking steps necessary.
Who knows? There might be some weird thing in there that's causing your credit, to go down.
Yeah, some medical, like a medical collection you had no idea of. There's little things, and those things are going to take time to get fixed. So it's, necessary that you start that process before any pre-approval.
Or people will have like a bankruptcy or...
There's just things on there that they don't even know.
And things haven't just been cleared up yet.
Yeah, I mean, in our loan company, Frontier Loan Group, a lot of times we get people who we pull their credit and they're like, what is that? I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
Well, and they're expecting like a pre-approval the next day.
That's right.
And you're like, this is going to take some time.
That's a great point you bring up, Michelle, because most people, when you get into that situation, they're in the immediate now. And I think what these top 10 tips tell you is to be proactive rather than reactive. Don't wait until you need something to analyze it.
Yeah.
Take a look at it now and see see what's going
really
on with it.
important.
It is really important, and because you're right, there might be something on there that you could fix now, and then even if you're not maybe thinking about buying a house until the end of the year, or maybe next year, whatever it might be,
It could easily take that time to do so.
Exactly.
And prepare yourself.
Exactly. Okay, number 2 is save for a down payment. It says, although a 20% down payment on mortgage is ideal, it's not mandatory. Many lenders expect buyers to put down at least 3%, aside from the FHA, which requires 3.5%. I think that it's really smart to try to save as much down payment as possible as well. What are your feelings on that, Will?
Yeah, you definitely want to save money for a down payment. I mean, that's the biggest challenge most borrowers usually have is the down payment and paying for closing costs.
Well, I mean, and I think having money down helps in a lot of ways because, take for example, VA. Even though you can get 100% on a VA loan, if you put money down, it can drop your VA funding fee that every VA purchaser has. So even putting down 5% can drop that amount down. So putting money down definitely helps you. And the reason they do that is because your loan becomes more secure. The more you put down, the more secure.
And the more skin you have in the game, the less risky you look. The better terms you're going to get, the better rates you're going to get.
I think just having money put aside is important in general because once you get into a home, you want to purchase new furniture, you want to, do some remodels to the home, and it's necessary to have some type of savings.
Well, I think that's another good point.
You know what I mean? Don't just save for the down payment. You need to save for a lot of things.
Well, that's a very good point because
maybe to move as well.
People will move.
Yeah.
People buy houses.
You have to buy
and
boxes.
They move in, and all of a sudden they're like, "Wait a minute, I don't have any furniture.
I have no money left. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I don't know what to do. So they're living in these empty houses, but they have a house. So you're right.
For something.
So plan that you're going to maybe need money post purchase. So have a little bit of funds built up.
And how much is it depends on the borrower, but definitely talk to a loan officer and they'll advise you.
Absolutely. Number 3, it says seek pre-approval. So, and this is something that we've talked about on previous shows numerous times. We preach this and preach this. Before you rush into house hunting mode, get a mortgage pre-approval for many, many reasons.
How much sooner do you think that they should start seeking a pre-approval?
Well, I mean, if you're beginning to think, if you're with your your significant other and you're like, I think this is the year that we buy a house, the first thing you do is you try to talk to a lender. And see what you can afford, because I know so many people that as soon as they make that decision, they jump on one of these online Zillow.
Yeah, they start looking at homes.
Yeah, all of a sudden they don't even know what they can afford. They're over there shopping, looking at things. Oh, this one looks great. Yeah, it's $1.7 million in La Jolla. Yeah, you can get that, but their pre-approval comes in at $450. I mean,
shatters their dream.
Shatters their dream. So don't even do that. Just get pre-approved. Get an idea for what you can afford. Make sure that there's not any glitches with your credit and that you're not going to have any surprises, because the last thing you want to do is get involved in a real estate transaction with even a basic pre-approval. I think what you really need to do is get something pretty solid, because you don't want to get in there and find out that you can't source your down payment or you don't have continuity of employment, whatever it might be.
There's just so many things that they look at. They look at your last 2 years of everything.
They do. They really look through a lot. So I think it's really important to get a pre-approval. It'll really set your expectations up, and it'll prevent a lot of headaches down the line. So the next thing it says, and I also agree very much with this, which is shop for a lender. You definitely need to shop for a lender and find somebody who's going to fight for you. I know a lot of people like to go to direct lenders and I'm going to whatever bank. But let me tell you something. A lot of times using a broker is far superior to using a direct lender. Brokers have more flexibility. They have more options. You need to find someone who's really, really going to push the envelope for you, and that's really going to shop for you. I mean, I think Will, obviously the lending manager of Frontier Loan Group, would agree with that.
Absolutely, and every bank has different guidelines and rules for loan programs. So one bank might have a set of rules where another bank will be much more flexible, and your loan officer will know where to take your loan depending on your circumstance.
Well, and I think that's a very good point, and I think this goes right into the next thing it says is 5 research loan types. There are a lot of different types of loans out there. They're not all the same, and you need to understand the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of each of these loans. So
I think a lot of people just automatically think I need to go into a conventional 20% down. And that might not always be your best option. Maybe you're a veteran, you know?
No,
and maybe that's
true.
a little better.
You might have more options that you know. And so when you march into wherever you go and you're like, well, I want this, and you might not even know because you don't understand what options are there. You need to be educated as to what,
what's
different products are out there. So we've got a few more here. Let's see. We've got number 6, consider your lifestyle. Number 7, remember to budget. Number 8, consult a professional, and that's something I always believe in. I believe that, anytime you're doing anything at all, and I do this, I always go to the people who know, and I don't go to people who are, part-time or this or that.
Dabbling in something.
I don't do people who dabble. I don't put everything that I have on the line for a dabbler. So I put somebody in who's a professional, who knows what they're doing, no matter what it is. Number 9, don't forget the closing costs. That's true. Keep in mind you're going to have some closing costs. And number 10, beef up your savings account, which goes in line with what Michelle was saying. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's great. So that's the top 10 little tips for getting prepared in 2016. So after the break, we're going to talk to Michelle Herrera, Michael Gaddis Realty Group, a little bit about buying and down payment assistance programs. You're listening to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170, The Answer.
AM 1170, The Answer, and AM 1170theanswer.com.